Oh, you could go to a store, they called it the PX, and it was just for people in the Army or Marine Corps, the Navy, and you could buy like a tape recorder or a radio, and so I would get tapes from radio stations in the United States, and they would send them to me. I'd call, I'd write and say, would you send me like the top 20 songs, okay? And they would send me a tape, and I'd put it on my tape recorder. So out while we were playing basketball, we'd been in our room, we'd be playing new music, like new songs and that they would send us.
Because
So
they would like release new songs
yeah,
that
yeah,
you wouldn't be
yeah,
able to regularly listen to.
yeah. And I remember one time we got one, and I think it was from WABC, which was a radio station in New York, which I think is still a radio station. And they would say, hey, we wanted to say thank you for serving all the guys in Fubai and 1st 155 Battalion. We wish you well. And then they would play some music, you know, so that was pretty neat too. So and then I brought that home with me, and I had it for a long time, but they were called reel-to-reel tape recorders, and it was big. It's about this wide, about this high, kind of like a speaker, like
Yeah.
you know the speaker you have at school. It was about that size, but it was a lot heavier, and we could play our tapes on that. So that was good. So that was neat.
So, like when you mentioned like the cards and the tape recorder, were you allowed to bring items from home to the Vietnam camp?
No, when you left for Vietnam, all you took was military stuff, and basically you've probably seen them before. You had a duffel bag, and a duffel bag's a bag about this big around,
Yeah.
about 3 foot
Like
high.
what you take when you go camping.
Yeah, that's just got your clothes in it. That's all it had in there. You may have an extra pair of boots, clothes, your shaving gear, and you know, you may have had a pocket knife in there or something like that,
Yeah.
but you didn't take any, you know, your favorite basketball or anything like that.
Yeah.
But once you got over there, you could buy a few things like that, okay? Or somebody may send you something. You could get, like I remember people would send me cookies sometimes, okay?
Yeah.
And I remember one time I had some cookies and I set them down, they were in the box, and I fell asleep. And I woke up the next morning
Never mind.
and all the mice had eaten the rest of the cookies. Mice or something, I don't know what even. So, but again, I'll just say God was watching over me the whole time, so that's for sure.
What did you do like when you were on leave?
Okay, some guys went on leave from Vietnam. I didn't. I just stayed there the whole time. Now I take that back. We had what they called an in-country R&R. So I was at Phu Bai, which was 50 miles north of Da Nang. Da Nang was nice and it was bigger, and they had actually a movie theater there. They had a bigger PX. You could even go there and say you were going to go home pretty soon. You could go there and say, I've got money, I want to buy a new car, and when I get to California, because that's where you come back to, the new car would be in California waiting for you. So, but when I went on leave, when I was stationed in the United States, as I said before, I was at Cherry Point, I would come home. And I could come home on the weekends, but I would travel 12 hours to get home. I was at home 12 hours, then I'd drive 12 hours to get back, and I would ride with somebody. So, but usually you would come home is when you went on leave, most people, at least I did.
Where did you travel while in service?
Okay, well, again, when I first went in, I went to Parris Island, South Carolina. I got out of, that was boot camp. I got out of boot camp and I went to Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. I went to mechanic school and infantry training there. Then I came home on leave. Then I got assigned to, as a duty station, that's where you were going to stay at for a while, Cherry Point, North Carolina. I went there and I was there about 6 months. I went back to school at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina for advanced mechanic school. I came back from advanced mechanic school to Cherry Point, and I got orders to go to Vietnam. So once I got orders to go to Vietnam, I got to come home for 20 days. Then I flew to California, went to Vietnam training, jungle training in Vietnam for a month. Then I flew from there, that's in California. Then I flew from there to Hawaii, was there 45 minutes. The jet that we were on got fuel. I went from Hawaii to a place called, if I can think the name of it, there was a place we went to before we went to Vietnam, and I can't think the name of it, but I was there for a week. Then I flew from there to Vietnam, and I was in Vietnam in Phu Bai for 12 months. Then I went from there back to home, or back to California at El Toro, California. And I was there for a month, and then I got out and I came back to Mason, Ohio. And that's
Which is where you lived then?
That's where I lived then, and stayed there for a while when I started working again and was out of the military. So that's pretty much it. What
Yeah.
else?
Do you recall any particularly humorous or unusual events?
I remember one time we had a guy that would always, if you had a can of pop in your hand, he'd always come in and grab the pop out of your hand, take a drink out of it, and give it back to you. Okay, so we were working on a Jeep one day, and someone said, "Hey, we're going to get him to stop drinking our pop." So they took an empty pop can and put some gasoline in it. Okay, so the guy had it in his hand. So he comes walking in, grabs the can of pop, which had gasoline in it, goes like that, and spits it back out. So that was a pretty good one. Then the other one I remember is that this is a little bit mean, but they had rats there, okay, and we would catch a rat, and they had a special cage. So they caught a rat one day, and they dipped the cage and the rat in a can of gasoline, and then they flipped the lid open so the rat went out, and somebody threw a match and lit the rat on fire, and he ran down for a little bit until he burned up. So anyway, that's two pretty good stories. And then the third one I remember, we had a homemade shower we made, and one day we were out there and it was on like